Welcome to sipandsynoptics. This is the show where we put truth over certainty. I recently watched a talk by Dr. James White about New Testament manuscripts, and I've also linked the video below so that you can check it out for yourself. And I found myself highly inspired. Just for some context, manuscripts of scripture are extremely important. They give us clues as to what the original text of our Bible said in the Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic bits. Because of this, the scriptures we have today are much more accurate than what we have had throughout the years. So, to go back to the video that I just mentioned, there was a moment where Dr. White displayed a copy of a manuscript and said that this manuscript was copied letter for letter. So let's take a look at a portion of the video just real quick, and I'll come back and I'll give you a few thoughts. This is the video over here. Let's go.
Here's P75. Now, P75 is a fascinating Gospels manuscript. It does not contain all of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Portions of Luke and John, primarily. But what's really fascinating is this guy. This guy was the ancient equivalent of Steve Lawson. Okay? Now, that does not mean that he had the exact same tie. But he was very particular. Now, we don't know what he ate, but we know he was very particular. He was very, very accurate. Because when you think about it, when you're copying, if you want to copy from a printed text, there's different ways you can do it. You can copy word for word. You can copy phrase for phrase. If your memory is really good, maybe sentence by sentence. But you see, the longer the section that you're memorizing and then copying, the more possibility you're going to forget something, transpose something along those lines, right? So we can tell by the kinds of errors that are made how the copyist did his work. And what's fascinating about P75 is that this guy copied letter by letter, one letter at a time. That takes a while. But it's also why this is one of the most accurate of the early manuscripts we have. And later on, you're going to see, I'm going to show you Codex Vaticanus. And we know by the readings contained in P75 and Vaticanus that they are both related to one another. Now, Vaticanus is not a copy of P75, but the two of them had an ancestor that they are both copied from. And since P75 is from around 175 to 200, that means that when Vaticanus and P75 agree, we're looking at an ancestor that goes back to about 125, so about the same time as P52, and contains a whole lot more than P52 did.
So this is, when I saw this video, I thought about the level of expertise that this individual had to have, which is obviously very little. I mean, it doesn't take much to copy letter by letter. But even some of us, can do it, not having had any experience with Greek letters at all. You just copy the one squiggle, and make sure that your squiggles look exactly the same as the next squiggle. And but if you think about it for a moment, this individual lived his whole life, from birth to whatever age he lived, working to survive, eating daily, learning how to write, having a family. He was a Christian, by what the manuscript shows, I believe. But in his entire life, let's assume he lived for 35 years. In his 35 years of life, the greatest contribution to the world that he ever gave was the few hours it took him to copy the surviving portion of a manuscript of Holy Scripture. That is just mind-blowing to me. It was not his friends that he accumulated. It was not a high level of education. It was, but it was just that hour or two of copying this one letter at a time to give us one of the most accurate manuscripts that Christianity has available today. And that's just unbelievable. So if anyone told him that this would be his 15 minutes of fame, I think it's, if I'm correct, the term is magnum opus, like his greatest work, that this is what it would be. just, I'm sure he would have spent more time just copying manuscripts. And you know what? Perhaps that's what he actually did. And this is the only surviving copy. Not sure, can't tell you for sure. But we are thankful that this man was used in the way that he was. So, what does this mean for me? When I think about my own education and what I'm adding to the world, sometimes I become discouraged. I never got to finish my degree in theology, the one that I set out to accomplish. But when I look at this copyist's work, I'm reminded that perhaps that is not the contribution that will be what sets me apart from everyone else. Perhaps my contribution will be that I was a good friend to somebody, or one of the greatest theologians of our time. Or perhaps that I just merely supported a YouTube channel that went on to change so many lives. Perhaps I changed the mind of somebody significant, and it's because of my help that they were able to achieve some of the groundbreaking, discoveries that they achieved. Perhaps even less than all of it. Maybe my children grow up to change the world because I was a supportive father who taught them how to achieve in life and not to fall short in the places where I did. All I can say is that everything that we do should be done to the glory of God. And just like that copyist, letter by letter, it should all be done to his glory. So I want to leave you with 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58. And it says, "Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain." Thank you for watching Sip and Synoptics. Please hit like and subscribe to support this content.